The 2017 FIM Sidecar World Championship opens at one of its most prestigious venues as the Bugatti circuit in Le Mans welcomes 15 teams for round one. Last season's French Grand Prix winners Reeves and Clues have stepped away from the series in 2017, meaning a new winner in a new era. The 2017 FIM Sidecar World Championship season gets underway with new regulations designed to improve safety in the sport. The era of 1000cc sidecars is over in favour of new 600cc engines, which the majority of teams will fit into a lightweight long chassis rather than the short chassis traditionally associated with the former F2 machines. But elsewhere, there are fewer notable changes to the series. The calendar includes 5 of the 2016 venues, with gold races at the most prestigious venues in Le Mans and Assen. And 3 of the weekends will feature 2 races, creating a total of 8 point-scoring opportunities in the 2017 championship. The entry list also has a familiar feel, with 3 of the 4 most recent World Championship outfits returning to the grid. Reigning world champions FRA and Kynerleinen and last year's F2 World Trophy winners Ben and Tom Birchall will go head-to-head after the winter's class mergers. I'm pleased with the new rules on the 600s. It's a new life and everything starts from zero this year. I was quite happy with the BMW engine last season and becoming world champion with it, but BMW don't make an appropriate 600cc engine, so I've decided to go with Honda. This weekend has been our first good test really because we've had such a long winter in Finland. It's been a real rush and now we have a lot of work ahead of us.
We have to learn the characteristics of the Yamaha engine. So yeah, still learning for this year, but really the basics of driving an LCR chassis, a long LCR chassis with a 600 engine in, we do have a year's head start, and you know, it's not as easy as it looks, and you've got to make the most of the smaller amount of power that we've got. So yeah, good and bad, but you know, still a challenge, and we had a lot of preparation in the winter, and you know, we're ready for it.
2 of the top 2016 outfits make changes to their lineups that may have an impact on their fortunes. John Holden is joined by his 2016 substitute passenger Mark Wilkes as he aims to improve on his world number 7 position from last year. Meanwhile, Benny Stroyer loses 2015 World Championship winning teammate Geert Kurtz to retirement and is joined by reigning world number 3 passenger Kevin Rousseau as he aims to regain the title. Benny contacted me during the winter as he was looking for a passenger, and since then we've been working together. We carried out a test at the Val de Vienne circuit in France, which went really well, and now we're heading into the World Championship together. We'll give our best to improve on last year's results. The dream is to become world champion, and although the competition is strong, we'll be pushing to be among the top positions. The final big story of pre-season is the return of Scott Lorry to the World Championship. The 47-year-old took a sabbatical from regular racing at the end of the 2013 season when he finished as world number 4. But the Scotsman returns in 2017 with new partner Ben Hughes, the 27-year-old making his debut in the World Championship.
Do I expect to be immediately on the pace? No, I don't, because I've been away for some time now. But if there's a space, I'm going for it. I've come here to win, and if the opportunity comes along, then I'm going to take it. If the door is open, I'm going in.
Superside returns to the track in Le Mans with the opening round of the 2017 campaign, and 3 former world champions are back to contest the first series under new regulations. The opening qualifying session of the 2017 season has seen Ben and Tom Birchall earn pole by a staggering near 2-second margin. They will be clear favourites to regain the title they last held in 2009, with Team Stroyer and 44 Racing their nearest rivals. But it was Holden and Wilkes who really impressed with P2 in qualifying, and they start alongside Ben and Tom Birchall on the front row of the grid. FRA and Kynerleinen could only manage 4th in qualifying, but have a tradition of performing better in race trim, so will be expected to make progress from the second row. Overcast but dry conditions in the south, where 3 French wildcard outfits will join the permanent teams. Home hopes rest in the series overall, with Kevin Rousseau, Benny Stroyer's new passenger in 2017. Meanwhile, it's a warm welcome back to the grid to Scott Lorry and a debut for Ben Hughes, as well as for their fellow countrymen Lewis Blackstock and Patrick Rosny on the 95 Dave Holden racing outfit. They start side by side on the third row of the grids. 15 outfits watching the lights to get us underway with the opening round of the 2017 campaign. It's lights out in Le Mans. What a jump that is from fourth on the grid for the reigning champions, Päivärinta and Kainalainen. Briefly 4 abreast before Ben and Tom Birchall are left behind. Stroyer and Rousseau winning the drag race down to turn 1 with the inside, but Holden and Wilkes are bravest, soaring around the outside to take the lead ahead of Ben and Tom Birchall, recovering from P4. Holden and Wilkes then running wide at the Dunlop chicane, and in a matter of 2 bends, the Birchall brothers have come back from 4th to 1st. Holden and Wilkes still second, Päivärinta and Kainalainen hampered by a poor qualifying, but they now move easily down the inside into La Chapelle. Holden and Wilkes running wide twice in the opening few turns and leaving the door open. Such mistakes always punished at World Championship level. And now they have Stroyer and Rousseau for company. A move down the inside into turn 5. Never really on though for them. And some respite for Holden and Wilkes, who've been the focus of the action in the early laps. Further back, Grabmuller and Kirchhoff are getting a good run on Blackstock and Rosny and blasting around the outside down into turn 6. No comparison in straight line pace there. That's for 5th position behind the top 4, who are already starting to break clear. Ben and Tom Birchall leading them down the back straight ahead of Päivärinta and Kainalainen, the biggest winners on lap 1 so far with 2 positions gained. Holden and Wilkes under pressure in 3rd from Stroyer and Rousseau, and then a separate group led by Grabmuller and Kirchhoff are behind. Certainly on the evidence of qualifying, there are a couple of separate battles in the field this weekend, but nobody has had anything like the pace to match Ben and Tom Birchall, the current race leaders. A poor start really for the pole sitters. Päivärinta and Kainalainen away brilliantly and had to thread between the 3 front row outfits quite carefully. Ben and Tom dropping like a stone to their left, but the Finns left too much room on the outside of them into the Dunlop curve, and that's where the Birchalls went, moving up to 2nd and poised to pounce down the inside when Holden and Wilkes made an error on turn 2. The closest race at the moment is for 6th position, with 3 outfits separated by less than 2 seconds. Blackstock and Rosny leading the group, but slower than both of the teams directly behind them on the last lap. And if anything, that pack appears to be tightening up. French wildcard Leblanc and Farnier staying with them, but it's Lorry and Hughes who are clearly on the attack as they head down towards Recordermont. They have the pace advantage at the moment. A competitive start to their championship return. P6 in qualifying for the number 72. And although they lost the place on the opening lap, they're fighting to recover it here. 0.3 of a second faster last lap, the gap now down to less than 0.4 of a second. And now they can start to think about where to make the pass. The major overtaking moves we've seen so far for the top positions have all been with errors under braking. It'll be much tougher to force that kind of mistake now. Everything up to temperature, and after 4 laps for all of the outfits to find their race pace. This is the battle for 6th position, already 25 seconds back from leader Ben and Tom Birchall, with the best part of 14 laps still remaining. A close fight for 2nd as well, further up the road. One of the fastest races of the season here in Le Mans. The top outfits averaging around about 140 kilometres per hour during each lap. 3 chicanes, probably the best places therefore to make an overtaking move, but a pretty even pace being shown at the moment by the riders in the mid-pack, right the way from 5th to 9th, and no change in positions as yet. Blackstock and Rosny, though, will have to keep their wits about them, as will Päivärinta and Kainalainen, who've seen their advantage over Holden and Wilkes cut by over a second. The Silicon Barnes Racing Kawasaki closing all the time, but loses it into turn 9 and off into the gravel track from 3rd. The machine giving an alarming kick as it comes to a halt, but staying the right way up. Not sure whether that's anything but terminal, though, for podium challengers Holden and Wilkes. And the man who was on the receiving end of so much misfortune last season, John Holden, looks to be out of the race again. No tarmac runoff areas on the Bugatti surface. And once he touched the grass, the sidecar was into a spin, coming to a rest in the gravel and out of the race. A real shame for Holden and Wilkes. rejoining what is the battle for 5th following the Silicon Barnes Racing's lap 5 retirement. LeBlanc and Farnier have been dropped somewhat by the two outfits up ahead. Blackstock and Rosny still with the advantage over Laurie and Hughes, and both picking up their pace last time around. A new personal best of a 150.5 for the chasing pair. Blackstock and Rosny with a 153, breaking just over that half a second advantage that stood between them for much of the race so far. Blackstock and Rosny in their World Championship debut, but with plenty of experience in the F2 outfits. Laurie and Hughes perhaps less so, but the change of regulations has certainly given Scott a clean slate and an even playing field in which to rejoin the series at the veteran stage of his career. The pair heading into the final sector and down towards turn 9. Laurie and Hughes still waiting for a mistake up ahead and both upping their game at the mid-race phase, but no position changes as yet in 5th and 6th. Meanwhile, the race for 8th has really closed up. Rutz and Hoffer recovering from a disastrous first lap. And they've clawed back 5 seconds on Bachmeier and Weschelberger. These two outfits in direct competition for the first time, having participated in separate categories last season, and they finished one behind the other in qualifying. The Swiss duo 0.7 of a second faster than the Austrians, so we know they have the outright pace. But obviously this is the toughest outfit they've come up against so far in their progression through the order. The momentum's certainly with them though, 0.7 of a second faster last lap, although admittedly their pace does seem to have dropped off a little now that they're tucked up behind their direct rivals. Back to the race for second, a new personal best for Stroyer and Russo as they continue to pursue Päivärinta and Kainalainen over a second faster than the Finns on lap 8. And in fact their mid-race pace here a match for Ben and Tom Birchall, who were only a 1/10 of a second faster than Team Stroyer last lap, and the Brits sit well clear out in front, and the main races are still for 2nd, 5th and 8th. Stroyer and Russo really released by Holden and Wilkes' earlier misfortune and trying to take advantage, working hard to make up a 2.5 second deficit to now sit just over half a second back in 3rd. The outfits coming in to complete lap number 9. It's been a brilliant turnaround for Päivärinta and Kainalainen, who were over 3.5 seconds slower than the lead pace in practice, but are developing their machine all the time. The form book, of course, thrown completely out of the window as a result of new regulations, and a brand new engine for the Finns following their switch to Honda during the winter. So 2 Honda-mounted teams running 2nd and 3rd. Päivärinta and Kainalainen responding there on lap 9. A 146.3, their new personal best. Not really opening the gap to Stroyer and Russo, who remain more consistent and are already probing for a way through. Looking down to the inside into the sweeping right-hander at turn 4, putting the pressure on the Finns. The experienced Pekka Päivärinta, 5 times world champion with 3 different passengers, certainly knows how to defend, and at the moment he's positioning himself perfectly. But it's Benny Stroyer who's making progress, and it's the Dutchman with the better run off Lemuse, clearly confident with his handling and able to run tighter. Päivärinta looking wider for grip and dropping back. Again, Stroyer hugging tighter into the apex, this time coming off turn 5, and that will give him the momentum coming down the back straight. Reigning champions Päivärinta and Kainalainen versus 2015 champion Team Stroyer. Stroyer and Russo ducking out of the slipstream to the inside and come through to 2nd. They'll run deep into the chicane though, and it'll be up to the Finns to try and get the cut back. So it's Stroyer and Russo now up to 2nd. Päivärinta and Kainalainen with the momentum though, and the inside run into turn 9. Brave on the brakes, and that's a great move to recapture the place. The reigning world champions really under siege there, but defending well, allowing Stroyer and Russo through into the chicane, but recovering the position with the number 5 outfit stuck offline. The best passing action of the day so far for 2nd position. Well, Stroyer and Russo have had the closing speed. Can they use it down the home straight and into lap 12? Päivärinta and Kainalainen trying to stretch their legs now and break free. Just over half a second the gap with 8 laps to go. And unless the Finns can up their pace, it looks like only a matter of time before Stroyer and Russo come through. The international pairing really putting the hammer down, 3/10 faster last lap. The gap the smallest it's been between them. This battle unfolding 20 seconds now behind Ben and Tom Birchall. And set to decide the remaining podium positions after the dominant Brits. Back to the race for 5th, Laurie and Hughes diving down the inside into Recordemar. The perfect place to make a block pass. They've had the pace throughout. They were faster than their compatriots in qualifying, and now that they've burst clear, they should be able to pull away. 12 seconds back from 4th position, though. It looks unlikely that they'll be able to do much more now than defend 5th. A perfect move down the inside, as I said. Only a short sprint from the S's and into the final turns, but with 2 right-handers, there was no way Blackstock and Rosny could get the cut back, not least actually because the door was closed well and they will run right to the edge of the outside curb. So a decisive move in the battle for 5th that's been a long time coming and which seems to have settled the position. The battle for 2nd still a long way from decided though. Stroyer and Russo have had to regroup following their failed passing attempt on lap 10. And Päivärinta and Kainalainen have started to gain slightly in this middle sector. The front runners coming up against lap traffic. The Birchells have already lapped up to 8th. The 2nd and 3rd place outfits have just passed Leblanc and Piquoin, who sit back in 12th. The other wildcard outfit, Leblanc and Farnier, doing a great job on the short chassis, up in 7th position. 12 laps completed here in Le Mans, and we're with the race for 2nd between Päivärinta and Kainalainen and Stroyer and Rousseau. Just over half a second, the gap between them, with the Finns setting a new personal best on the 12th lap, but only increasing their lead by fractions of a second. On board with the number 44 LCR Honda as they take us off the Dunlop chicane and down the hill towards turn 4. 2 good laps from the Finns to build a tiny buffer, but Stroyer and Rousseau seem to be eating that up again, looking to their favoured inside into La Chapelle, but held at bay. 3 laps on from their first passing attempt, the number 5 outfit have regrouped and are back in touch. Almost half a second faster than Päivärinta and Kainalainen in the first sector alone, and building up towards another attack. Further back, Rutz and Fries have been directly behind Bachmeier and Weschelberger since lap 2. And despite showing significant pace to reel them in, have been held up behind the number 22 outfit since. No change in the race for 8th then, despite a new personal best from Rutz and Fries last lap that has narrowed the gap to less than half a second now. Side by side for 2nd, Stroyer and Rousseau making the move down the inside and into the chicane as they did on lap 10. Again, the Finns happy to cede track position. Stroyer and Rousseau a little bit further ahead this time as they come off turn 8. Päivärinta and Kainalainen need to gain back the position quickly. Can't afford to give Stroyer and Rousseau the chance to break, and indeed they size down the inside into the S's, relying on some compliance from their direct rivals, but plenty of mutual respect between the 2 most recent World Championship winning outfits. Back on board with Pekka Päivärinta as he tries to get the best possible run through Recordement and the slingshot onto the start-finish straight to enter lap 14. Twice overtaken now by Stroyer and Rousseau, twice back past, showing a real cool head and leaving the number 5 outfit wondering just what they can do to consolidate that 2nd position. Stroyer and Rousseau close enough to consider a move elsewhere on the circuits here, and Päivärinta and Kainalainen need to be careful as they come up to the number 6 Cumbria Express of Baker and Baker Holden, lapping 8 seconds off their pace down in 11th, but they jump straight out of the way under blue flags, meeting another outfit running that much slower. A real risk to Päivärinta and Kainalainen, who may well meet Barbier and Crushmore in 10th place before the end of this lap 14. For the moment, though, the status quo maintained, less than half a second. The gap between Päivärinta and Kainalainen in 2nd, and Stroyer and Rousseau in 3rd. 2015 champion Stroyer getting really racy here, sensing an opportunity off turn 5, but Päivärinta moves to block that before sweeping back to clip the apex on turn 6. Sets himself up nicely for the back straight. This is where Stroyer and Rousseau have made their 2 moves so far. Päivärinta and Kainalainen only 2 aware and riding pretty defensively here across the straight now, covering the inside attack and then moving back to the racing line ahead of the chicane. The Finns showing all of their experience to maintain position, and certainly having to. Team Stroyer seems to be the faster outfit at the moment in that battle for 2nd. Returning to the race for 8th, Rutz and Fries setting new personal bests on each of the last 2 laps. The gap back down to less than half a second, with Bachmeier and Weschelberger holding on stubbornly, but less than convincingly. Rutz and Fries certainly have the speed advantage. Very shortly, both will be lapped by Ben and Tom Birchall, which will add further spice to their battle, whilst also confirming the dominance of the race leaders. Over 20 seconds clear of their nearest contenders, over 1.5 seconds faster than the battle for 2nd and 3rd last lap. Bachmeier and Weschelberger responding well here, matching Rutz and Fries for pace in the first sector, and it's been a well-controlled race for them in 8th. Runners up behind Ben and Tom Birchall in the F2 World Trophy last year. It's been quite a step up in pace with the 600s now the World Championship class in 2017. The 22 outfit running pretty wide into Garage Vert, but cutting back to the inside just in time to kill Ruts and Free's momentum and hold on to position coming down the back straight. Reigning world number 9 will have to wait for another opportunity to improve on their current 9th place position here in Le Mans. And there you can see Ben and Tom Birchall right on the tail of this fight now as they continue their relentless march towards their opening victory of the 2017 season. Päivärinta and Kainalainen still hold second around Garage Vert ahead of Stroyer and Russo. The half-second gap between them going nowhere, and the Finns now wary of the inside attack down the back straight. That's been Stroyer's favoured passing move on 2 occasions so far. Neither time has he been able to make it stick, but he's going to have another look down the inside on lap 15. Päivärinta and Kainalainen slightly further ahead this time. The two almost touched there at one stage. The chair certainly lifted off the circuit as Päivärinta steered hard across to the apex, and this time around maintains track position and the racing line. If Stroyer and Russo do insist on making their move into the S's, they're running out of time. Just 3 laps at the end of this one for them to move up to second place. They've certainly shown enough pace, but Päivärinta and Kainalainen have had the measure of them in terms of track craft so far. And that's Bachmeier and Weschelberger out of the race from P8. It looks like they've lost it before the Dunlop chicane, a very unusual place to go and a high-speed part of the circuit as well. They've been fighting with Ruts and Freeze, of course, in the fringes of the top 10. And we'll see it again, yes, through the Dunlop curve. Marcel Freeze clear of the chair before hitting the barrier. That's a nasty impact. No great surprises that that's brought out the red flags. And with less than 3 laps remaining, you would anticipate that being a declared result now. Ben and Tom Birchall leading comfortably at the time of the stoppage, and they're already acknowledging the crowd on the lap of honour. Back to top spot at the start of 2017, and a perfect return to the World Championship. So 2 of last season's top 3 in the F2 World Trophy, stepping back up to the World Championship with a double-figure score at the opening round. Ben and Tom Birchall coming out on top. A good ride from Scott Lorry and Ben Hughes for 5th. Meanwhile, Ruts and Freeze take 8th after the late race retirement of Bachmeier and Weschelberger.
Ja, ik ben heel blij met het resultaat.
Yesterday in practice we had some problems with the engine. I changed that over last night, which is always a risk because there's no warm-up, so it needs to be right first time. And it worked out perfectly. The engine was much better than yesterday, and we had a really good race.
Het is gewoon echt super om met Päivärinta in gevecht te zijn. Kan niet beter.
It's been very hard for Kirsi and I this winter, so I'm very happy with this position. The bike worked well, and so did Kirsi.
It means so much because we had a year last year of, you know, on the 600 and not really winning but winning, and it was difficult, so to come and be able to fight with the guys at the top of the class, and it's fantastic. Perfect place at Le Mans, and thank you to everyone that helps us get to this race and be able to do it. Thank you.
A first race victory in the elite category since Le Mans 2014 for Ben and Tom Birchall means the favourites for the 2017 World Championship leave the opening round in front with the psychological advantage after a dominant weekend. The 2 most recent title winners will hope to make progress from directly behind the round 1 winners when the series moves on to Germany next month.